but before we talk about Jesus, we're going to talk about Judas instead, because as we've been teasing for the past few podcasts, Kevin and I have had a disagreement for the last 3-4 years. During the 18-19 season, we had two different outlooks on two different stories. Towards the end of that season, that was a hotly contested season where me and Kevin were fighting for the number one spot in our mini league. I came out on top, obviously, and Kevin will say that's because I did something wrong. I'll say that he did something wrong before me and I didn't do anything wrong, but I will not get too much into it before I'll let Kevin speak on the subject. I'll be the bigger man and let him talk first and introduce both stories, and then afterwards I'll correct the record and tell you how it actually happened. So yeah, here's Kevin, and Kimo will be the judge, of course. So Kevin will go ahead first and talk about what happened in both the Aubameyang case and the Hazard case.
Okay, for starters, I am not as prepared as Mathias is when it comes to this, so I don't have all the stats and everything written down because A, I'm not a loser, B, I don't really care because it's past and gone, and also a lot of the records are not there because we did a lot of this over the phone, we did a lot of this over chat and all this type of stuff. So for me personally, I feel like we both did something wrong, and I'm more than willing to admit that. The difference is Mathias is completely just, oh, you're in the wrong, what you did was wrong, and what I did was nothing. I just played the game. Whereas I believe we both did something wrong. I personally believe the Hazard thing was worse, but fair enough. We'll get to the story. So basically, what happened was there was this game week where Mathias came to me asking me about FPL advice, as we both talk to each other all the time about this type of stuff, right? And it was the season where it was very highly contested between the two of us, where Mathias and I are the type of people who actually share like our future plans and stuff like that, whilst I know a lot of managers who don't like discussing stuff, who keep it to themselves and all this type of stuff.
I'm that kind of person usually.
Yeah. Fair, which is fair enough, which is more than fair enough. But I think we're close enough friends, and we're not usually that competitive in terms of FPL to like purposely sabotage or anything like that. So what ended up happening was Aubameyang was in a good purple patch. I believe Aguero had just gone crazy with hat tricks and stuff like that against Chelsea, Arsenal back in 2019. And yeah. So I believe I sold Aguero either due to an injury or something like that to get Aubameyang in. Or something like that. I don't remember the finer details, but essentially what happened was I sold Aguero and got Aubameyang, or I already had Aguero and had the money to facilitate a move for Aubameyang, who I had just told Mathias to sell. And I told him to sell Aubameyang simply because he was meant to get in Aguero, who was in much better form than Aubameyang was. The reason I brought Aubameyang in was because I had tickets to Spurs Arsenal the week after the transfer or something like that. So for me, I'm one of those type of guys that when I do transfers, I sometimes do transfers if I'm going to watch someone live. So like, for example, I once back in 2011 brought in Van Persie against Wigan. And that was the first time Van Persie ever had a hat trick for Arsenal. And I brought him in, captained him, and he got 30 points or whatever.
You saw the game. You saw the game live.
Yeah. So I saw him actually live against Wigan. So I saw Aubameyang live against Spurs away. So for me, the reason why I brought Aubameyang in the end was because I could facilitate a move for both, and I was going to see him live. The reason I told Mathias to get rid of him was because Aguero had the better. At the time, we didn't have XG and stuff like that. It was more of like a feeling thing, right? Where we were just like, it's more obvious that...
I know where is this going. So
I like Aubameyang is the better move and all this type of stuff. And that's, to me, what happened with Aubameyang. Now, I don't know if I should move to you so you can say the Hazard thing, or should I just continue and say the Hazard? Okay, fine. Then, after many, many, many game weeks later, comes a point where it's like crunch time of the season. We're talking, I don't know, maybe less than 10 games. I genuinely don't remember. I think it was like less than 10 games to go or something like that.
Game weeks.
Okay, it's even worse. It's even worse than I can imagine. Okay, so it's the final couple game weeks, and we're not lying to each other. We're still straight mugging, straight face, and all this type of stuff. And I was talking to him about different transfers. One of them being Eden Hazard, to which he just okay, fine. He's gonna immediately say that this wasn't the case. He's gonna say that what this was about was me trying to guess who his captain was. And fair enough. At the point of him trying to catch up to me, he shouldn't tell me who the captain is, right? But I also asked him about suggestions for my team. That's how I remember it. And I remember it being like me asking about Eden Hazard. And to which he was just dead quiet. He was dead quiet for most answers, right? When it was like a blatant no, he would just outright say no. But when it came to Eden Hazard and some other names, he got dead quiet. So I don't remember if I had like an inkling, like, oh, did he actually go for Hazard or not? But at the end of the day, the difference between me not going for Hazard and him going for Hazard was obviously the thing that won him the mini league, and Zaha, of course. Zaha, I wasn't even considering, and that he did all by himself. But if I had brought Hazard in, it would have neutralized it and all this other sort of stuff. But fair enough, as the guy catching up, he doesn't necessarily have to tell me that he's getting in Hazard. But if he's giving me advice, he could have mentioned Hazard because that could have changed my season, and it didn't.
Yeah.
That's how I remember a lot of it. Okay.
Over to
Yeah.
Matthias.
Let's now hear from Matthias, who has the stats, who has the numbers, and blah 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 blah. And I'm gonna interrupt several times and say that he's full of horse doo doo, but I'll give it to him. Okay.
Well, you can try to interrupt if I have the microphone now. So I'll set the record straight. First of all, we'll go to Aubameyang. Kimo, you know how much of a Aubameyang fan I've been in FPL. I've been obsessed with him for some reason, to my detriment. As was the case in this thing. Kevin said he had a purple patch. That is so far off the case. He had like a couple decent games, but nowhere near the level Aguero did. Aguero had matches against Arsenal and Chelsea, consecutive game weeks. He had like game week 25. He played Arsenal, scored a hat trick. Then he had a blank. Then he had a blank game week 26, and then he had a double game week 27 with Everton and Chelsea. He blanked against Chelsea, and then he scored another hat trick. Or he blanked against Everton, and then he scored another hat trick against Chelsea.
Yes.
During this whole time, I had Aubameyang. He did not have a blank in game week 26. He was supposed to face Huddersfield, but he was ill for that match, so he didn't play that match. So obviously, I lost a lot of points compared to Kevin and everyone else who had brought in Aguero earlier. I still had Aubameyang. So yeah, I had to admit defeat and say just like, ugh. Do I really have to transfer out Aubameyang to get Aguero? I guess I have to. Aubameyang was going to play Bournemouth at home. That was a really good fixture for him, but after so many letdowns and him being ill against Huddersfield, I just figured, I don't know, maybe I should sell him. I'll talk to Kevin and ask him for his advice. Yeah. And he gave me the go-ahead. Yeah, you should sell Aubameyang. You should get Aguero, who has West Ham, my favorite team. He plays West Ham, and then he plays someone else. I can't remember. Aubameyang played Bournemouth and then Spurs, like Kevin correctly. That was one of the few things he got correct. So yeah, obviously, with a heavy heart, I sold Aubameyang and bought Aguero. And then and then I went to bed. And obviously, I struggled sleeping. I was pondering, is it really worth it? What is life? Is it worth it anymore? So I struggled to sleep, and then I wake up the next morning, and I see that I got a message from Kevin, and this is what I saw from him.
Oh my god.
So Kevin had transferred in Aubameyang
Right.
I think I'm not 100% certain about this. I think it was straight for Aguero. It might have been Kane to Aubameyang, but I think it was for Aguero. But at least the thing is, told me to sell Aubameyang, and then he brought him in the next day and put it straight in my face.
Did he do well? Aubameyang,
And he
that,
claimed, we'll get to that as well. That's not the point, though. It's still,
yeah.
he had Bournemouth at home. Arsenal won 5-1 against Bournemouth. Aubameyang had plenty of chances. He only got one goal. Fair enough. In the end, that was karma for Kevin, because if he would have gotten a hat-trick and I wouldn't have had him, Kevin would have beaten me that season. So that's just karma playing out for the Buddhist Kevin. Anyways, that's Aubameyang. Obviously, I gave Kevin a lot of, doo-doo, like he said, if you're going to keep it PG, throughout the season or afterwards. Then about 10 game weeks later, we come to the Hazard incident. So basically, we're coming up on the end of the season. It's 2 game weeks to go. I'm about 30 or 25 points behind Kevin. I need to figure out a way to basically get more points than him. And obviously, I can't tell Kevin exactly what I'm going to do, and then he's just going to copy my team. Like, that would defeat the purpose of me trying to catch him. So before he has said anything to me in game week 37, I tell him, this is correct. I remember more than him. I tell him, I'm not gonna tell you what I'm gonna do this week, so you have the option to do the same to me. I gave him that out. He didn't have to discuss anything in terms of FPL with me, and I told him I'm not gonna tell you who I'm gonna buy and who I'm gonna captain this week.
Fair
so
enough,
if you want to do the same with me, then sure, go ahead. We'll do it mano a mano without any tips and stuff. So obviously, I went for Hazard. He was my secret pick. He played Cardiff, so it wasn't really that big of a differential anyway. It made sense.
Easy to guess, yeah.
It's just Hazard was obviously expensive, so you'd have to jumble your lineup a bit if you didn't have an expensive midfielder to sell for him. I can't remember exactly who I sold and stuff, but anyways, I brought in Hazard. He had 2 assists, I think, against Cardiff. Got some bonus points, and obviously as my captain, I think he got 15 points or 12 points or something like that, times 2. While Kevin's captain, I think, failed. I can't remember who Kevin's captain even was. Anyways, I did nothing wrong. Hazard helped me, along with Saha and Mane, at the final game week to get me over the hump and beat Kevin for yet another season.
Yeah, I think they had Wolves at the last game of the week.
Yeah, exactly. And then I think...
For 2 goals, yeah.
Yeah, it was one of us had Trent, and I think I had Trent and Mane. He had Salah and Robertson or something along those lines, and that also helped me win the league. I was actually here in London for that final game week as well, and I was not one of those guys who were like, haha, you lost, blah blah blah. I was actually pretty calm about it.
Yeah.
He had that's Kevin's best season in FPL, and he had a great season. I'm not going to say anything against that, but I still beat him. But
I think there's no Judas here. I think it's natural, and it's I think Kevin is a little bit naive to share what his intention. You know what I mean? I think that's really kind. I'm like much worse than you guys. I don't share anything, especially in the last weeks. With a mini league, with my friends that we played for 17 seasons together in the same mini league. I don't say anything. I even use Photoshop and do fake transfers and send it to them and switch off my phone, something like that. So, but the funny thing, because I remember that game so well, it was in January or something like this. I was
February.
It was in February. Yeah, I was going to Egypt, and I actually sold Aguero and someone else, and I bought Sané, and the flight was so long, and the first thing I switch on my phone when I land in Egypt, and I find million missed calls from my friend teasing me that Aguero scored a hat-trick against Chelsea. Against Arsenal, against Arsenal.
Yeah.
And I remember very well. I captained Sané against Everton in the double game week in Chelsea, and he got me 1 point.
That's the famous Sané 1-pointer for the double game week as well.
Yeah,
that's true. It's the same.
I have one friend of mine who triple captain Sané at that game week. We still tease him till today about that front back.
That's true. Yeah, I think I actually had Sané. I think I had Sané as well as captain, so that might be why I didn't have Aguero.
Aguero was never going to play all these games, but you never trust Pep. So at the last game week, actually, I was 2 points behind the mini league where I play with the guys, and I tripled Captain Mane the last game week of the season. I had Mane and Alexander-Arnold, and
I remember.
Mane scored a goal, Salah scored nothing or scored 1 goal, something like that. And I won the mini league by 6 points because of the triple captain of me and the assists of Alexander-Arnold. So a really cool season. Lovely story. And this is a beauty of Fantasy Premier League. It's just like one story that carries on for years, and so on. Yeah, I love it.
Yeah.
But no one is guilty here. Yeah, let's move on.